Hakadosh Masechet. Good evening. Masechet Chagigah Daf Tet Amud Aleph. We are on the Mishnah on 9A1. Okay. 9A1 Mishnah. 9A1 Mishnah. Tet Amud Aleph. Mi shelo chag b'yom tov rishon shel chag chogeg kol haregel. So somebody that did not bring the korban chagigah on the first day of Sukkot, he could be chogeg the entire rest of the time of Sukkot. Why? Because if you didn't bring the first day, you have tashlumin the rest of the days. The Yom Tov Acharon Shel Chag, and even if it's going to be on the last day of Yom Tov, which is Shemini Atzeret, you could still bring it because it's going to be 7 days of tashlumin. Aval regel velo chag. However, the once they passed the regel and you did not bring the korban chagigah, eno chayav b'achriyuto. You're not chayav anymore the achriyut, which means you lost out. On this it's written meuvat lo yuchal litkon v'chesron lo yuchal levanot. What does that mean? Meuvat lo yuchal litkon means something which is like iniquity, something which is bad, right? You cannot fix it. And something which is lacking, you can't count it. It's not there. Okay? Fine. So now says the Gemara like this. Rabbi Shimon ben Menasiyah Omer, Rabbi Shimon ben Menasiyah says, Ezu meuvat shelo yachol litkon. What is a meuvat shelo yachol litkon? Ze haba la'erva ve'olim mimenu mamzer. A mamzer. Why? Right? If right now you cannot prepare it, which means that once it's done, kaddish. There's nothing what to do. Somebody that comes onto an immoral relations, right, and they have a mamzer, there's nothing what to do. Now, in tomar begoneh vegozer, maybe you're going to tell me that it also applies to somebody that steals, right? He says, no, he could fix it. Why? Return that which he stole, and now he fixes it. So therefore, obviously, that's not the explanation of meuvat lo yachol litkon. Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai Omer, Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai says, en korim meuvat ela mi sheyam tukam v'nita'avet, right? Ve'ezehu. He says no. So somebody that was born a mamzer is already mamzer. He's not metukan. That's meuvat lo yuchal litkon. Meuvat lo yuchal litkon means at the beginning he was metukan, then he became meuvat, and you can't fix it. So he says, who are we referring to? Referring to somebody that was on the path and then they strayed from the path. Who's that? A tamid chacham, which is poresh min Torah. That is somebody that is meuvat lo yuchal litkon. Why? Because at the beginning he was fixed, and only now, right? He cannot come. Says the Gemara, Menah right? Where do we know these words from? Right? Amar Rabbi Yochanan Mishum Rabbi Ishmael. Says Rabbi Yochanan in the name of Rabbi Ishmael, yeah, Ne'emar Atzeret b'Shvi'i shel Pesach. It says Atzeret in the Torah to do a Shvi'i shel Pesach. Because it says Sheshet yom tuchol matzot v'yom Shvi'i Atzeret l'Hashem Elokecha lo ta'aseh melacha. Ne'emar Atzeret b'Shmini shel Chag. And it says Atzeret on Shmini Atzeret, right? Which is the 8th day of the Chag of Sukkot. Just like over there, it's the 8 days to do tashlumin. So 2 years to do tashlumin. So says the Gemara, 1 second. In order to make this gezerah shava, we have to say that atzeret is mufneh. Mufneh means that it is empty or not empty, available without learning. No, but it's without learning another derasha from it. That's what it means mufneh. Why? The lav mufneh, because if it's not available, if it's not panui to do, that means you needed to learn something. I could refute it. How am I going to refute it? I'm not going to come and quote both of them. So the Gemara is trying to say, 1 second, why? I could refute this entire concept. How am I going to refute the entire concept? We could say, 1 second, how are you comparing Shemini, basically what we're talking about of Pesach, right, to the day of Shemini Atzeret? You can't compare the two. Why? Pesach, every single day, right, it's the same korban. That's why every single day the mafti, right, Salam Shos, is the exact same thing. The Shemini, right, whenever it's talking to Sukkot, every single day it's a different day, right? And even the Shemini Atzeret is a different chag. So he says every single day. So therefore, if you're not going to tell me that it is equal, meaning that it's empty, I could refute it. What? Every single day of Sukkot, it's a different korban. It's a different korban. Pesach is not that. Every day is the same korban by Pesach. Okay? Yeah. So he says, Lai afnuye mufne. Be'emet, it is mufne. Right? It is going to be mufne. What does it mean mufne? Mufne means it is going to be empty. Why? Michti. Let us see. My atzeret. What does it mean atzeret? The word atzeret means atzor, to stop. Ba'asiyat melacha, that you're not doing melacha. Haktiv etzvetin, lo ta'aseh melacha, don't do melacha. So then, atzeret, so why do I need atzeret? Meaning, atzeret means ta'atzor. Not the ta'atzor b'ivrit. Stop. Right? Aret. Yeah, now the question is, one second. If I'm going to tell you right now to stop, you already just told me lo taseh melacha. So why do I need the atzeret? So he says, atzeret k'tav rachmana laman. But rather it's coming to teach you that it's going to be empty in order to teach you something. So the fact that it's empty, which means that the atzeret is, I don't need that atzeret. That atzeret I already could have learned it from lo taseh melacha. So the fact that it's empty, I could use it as a gezerah shava. The Tana maiti la mehacha. So says the Gemara, there's another mekor that there is tashlumin for chagigat, chaga sukkot, also in shmini atzeret. Where's the other? So one more time. One mekor is from what we just mentioned now, atzeret, right? Atzeret. Now why? Because if it wouldn't have been the atzeret, right? If it wouldn't, and it had to be empty, if not be'emet, I would have knocked it off. Fine. The next one. The Tana maiti la mehacha v'chagotem. The time we learned about v'chagotem tu chag laHashem. It says in Vayikra over there v'chagotem tu chag laHashem. Right? In Parashat Emor. Shivat yamim b'shana chukat l'nolotechem. B'chol shvi tachog oto. Yachol yeh chogeg ve'olech kol shiva. I would have thought to say that you're going to bring a korban chagigah all the 7 days, right, of the chag. Tamulomar v'chagotem oto. Oto ata chogeg. You're only going to be chogeg on the first day. Yeta chogeg kol shiva. You're not going to bring it the other days. So he says 1 second. So imken lam shiva. So why does it say shivat yamim b'shana? 7 days. So he says l'tashlumin for tashlumin. Okay. So what does that mean? Uminayin sheim lo chag. So how do you know that if you didn't do the first day, you could continue doing every single other day of the day, and even the Yom Tov Acharon? If it was only going to be written on the 7th month, because remember, what's the 7th month? Tishri. If it's only going to be written the 7th month, I would have thought you could use the entire 7th month. Not only in Yom Tov, any time during the month of Tishri, do whatever you want. Tamul comes to teach you, only on Sukkot, which is oto on it, but not on anything else. So from here we learn another halacha that we are going to have the tashlumin for the Sukkot, and it's going to continue the rest of the days of Sukkot, but it's only on the days of Sukkot. It cannot be any other time. Okay? So it says the Gemara, my tashlumin. What does it mean here? What does it mean that we're going to say it's tashlumin? So Rabbi Yochanan says, tashlumin l'rishon. It's always going to be considered a tashlumin for the first day. Okay, Rav Oshi Amar, he says, no, tashlumin zelazeh. It's going to be tashlumin for each other. Now, what exactly is the difference between them? Meaning it's not only a tashlumin from the days before. Meaning even if you weren't fitting to bring it on the first days, you could still bring it now. So my benayu, Amar Bizera says Bizera, what we just mentioned now. Chiger biyom rishon nipashet biyom sheni. You have somebody that's lame on the first day. We learned, if you remember the beginning of Chagigah, somebody that's lame, somebody that's blind, somebody that's handicapped. So what happens? He's patur from olat riyan shel mechagigah. So what happens if he was patur at the beginning of the Yom Tov, and all of a sudden now nitpashet? Nitpashet means he became cured. So the beginning he had a problem. He was patur, but now he became chayav on the 2nd day, 3rd day. So says the Gemara, that's the difference between. Rabbi Yochanan says, tashlumin larishon. It's all a tashlumin for the first day. The kevan do lo chazi b'rishon, and since he's not fitting on the first day, lo chazi b'sheni, he's not fitting on the 2nd day either. Which means, even though right now he became cured on the 2nd day of Chol HaMoed, the fact that on the first day of Yom Tov he was patur, right now he's patur. Why? It's all tashlumin larishon. But if you're going to tell me it's tashlumin zelazeh, so he's going to be chayav. Rav Oshi Amar, tashlumin zelazeh, afal gav do lo chazi b'rishon, chazi b'sheni. He's still fitting on the 2nd day. So says the Gemara, Miyamar Rav Yochanan Hachi, does Rav Yochanan actually say this? That basically, that if you're going to be patur on the first day, that's it, you're patur completely. Chizkiah says, Nitma bayom, right? Mevi balayla. If a person became tameh on the 8th day of his purification process, so he's going to come and he's going to bring, right? He's going to bring, right, on the nighttime, right? So he says, Mevi, he's going to bring a korban, which means a person comes and he became tameh on the 8th day of his purification process. After he becomes tahor, he's going to come and he's going to bring in the korbanot, right? But he has to bring korbanot nifradim, which means on every single tumah, he's going to bring a separate korban. However, though, what happens if he became tameh that same night? Meaning the same night that he's supposed to become tahor, he became tameh. Eno mevi, he doesn't bring another korban. Rabbi Yochanan says, af balayla nami mevi, even if it's going to be the same night, he's also going to bring another korban. Right? He says, you see from here, somebody that's not fitting to bring a korban, a certain type of a korban, right? Because you don't bring korbanot in the nighttime, right? Nevertheless, he's still going to have the chovat of the korban in order to do the tashlumin. Amar Rabbi Yirmiyah, says Rabbi Yirmiyah, Shane Tum'ah, right? Because what were we just trying to do now? We were just coming and asking a question. How does Rabbi Yochanan come and say it's all a tashumin for the Rishon? What about this case of Tum'ah? Right? Here, Rabbi Yochanan was saying that even if it became Tameh the same night, which is the 8th in the night, meaning you finish the 7 days, that night of the 7th day, it's all that's it. He says it's still, he doesn't have to bring another korban, it's all the same korban. So he says, Amar Rabbi Yirmiyah, Shane Tum'ah is different Tum'ah. Why? The Yeshla Tashlumim in Pesach Sheni. Tum'ah is a special halacha because remember by Korban Pesach, and this is for John Paul always that he asks this question, Korban Pesach was Pesach Sheni. Meaning that by Pesach it's a special din. It's Pesach Sheni. Even if a person was Tameh on the first Pesach, he does it the next month. And there's no problem. It's not like the regular din of Tashlumin. So you have those 7 days to do it. Pesach is different. You didn't bring the Korban Pesach the first month. Don't worry. Right? Why? I'll give you a chance for next month. Pesach Sheni you're able to. Okay? So he says, Yesh Tashlumin, the Pesach Sheni. Matkif la Rav Papa. So Rav Papa comes and he asks the following question. Hani Chalamandamar, and this is good according to the Mandamar. Pesach Sheni is a Tashlumin of Pesach Rishon. We're on Teta Mubet, 9b. Right? This is good according to the Mandamar that holds the Pesach Sheni is a Tashlumin of the Pesach Rishon. Does that make sense? Meaning that the first Pesach you weren't able to do it, so now you have Pesach Sheni. Pesach Sheni is Tashlumin of Pesach Rishon. But exactly, second chance. But according to the Mandamar, Sheni, Regel, Bifnei Atzmo, the Pesach Sheni is another Regel. It's a new Regel, right? The Pesach Sheni is a new Chag, right? So he says, Michael, what are you going to say then? So then, what you're not going to tell me then the reason of Rabbi Yochanan is because the Nazir that became Tameh again, right? That just like we found like the Korban Pesach, right? That it has Tashlumin for a Korban that was pushed off because of Tumah, that meant there's no Tashlumin. So then again, we're going to have the exact same question. Why? Why is there Tashlumin if Yiger b'yom harishon yipashev b'yom hasheni and lo Tashlumin? Okay? So he comes and he says, Ela amar Rav Papa, but rather Rav Papa comes and he says, right? What does he say, Rav Papa? He says, Kasava Rabbi Yochanan laila mechusar zman. He says, no. Nighttime is still lacking time, meaning it didn't go into the day. What does that mean? A person that's obligated to bring a korban during the daytime, the time of the chiyuv already starts from the laila shelefanat, starts from the night before. But still, even though you don't bring korbanot in the nighttime, okay, you don't bring korbanot in the nighttime, right? It's still considered davar tzadi. What does it mean? It's like a technical problem, right? That's stopping you from bringing the korban, which you're going to be obligated. Therefore, in a case of a nazir that he becomes tameh, the obligation to bring the korbanot tumah on the 8th day, he's already starting to bring it the night before. So it comes out that even if he's going to become tameh in the night before the shemini, right, this chiyuv, right, he was already chayav in the korban the first time around. So therefore, he's going to be chayav lashlim, right, once he becomes pure. So in the other case, by a chiger, that on the first day of the chag, he was not chayav at all. So therefore, even afterwards, he's not going to be chayav at all. Okay? Now it makes sense. Okay? Until here we're clear? Yakatu also, we said. Yes, 100%. Even the wooden leg. All those things. Also. Kabayim. Umiyam Rabbi Yochanan Haki, does Rabbi Yochanan actually come and he says such a svara? He says, Rabbi Yochanan says, Ra'achat balayla u'shtayim bayom, right? Mevi. What happens, right? Remember that there's a difference between a zav and a zava. Okay, a zava has to be in days, meaning when a woman has her normal flow, her normal period, it's 7-11, right? That's also where they got the 7-11 from, right? 7 days of nida, and then there's 11 days of ziva, which means that after the 7 days of nida that she would have seen as a nida, she has 11 days that if she sees again, it's considered a sickness. Because if she just had her period, what she's seeing again right now, right, in these 11 days right afterwards, right, it doesn't make sense. So that's called 7-11. So during this 11, now, for a zava, which is a sickness, it all depends on days. She sees the first day, let's say she sees on day 10, and she had her period on the first day. For the 7 days, that's considered the period blood. Then afterwards, she went already to the mikveh, she's already pure, she's everything. And all of a sudden now what happens is that she becomes, right, on day 11, she sees blood one day. So now she sees blood on one day. What happens? So says the Gemara, she's Zavaktana. She sees blood the second day, day 12, again Zavaktana. She sees again day 13, that's 3 days in a row, Zavagdula. By Zava, with a hey, what to do with women, it's depending on days. by a zav, which is a male that has a seminal discharge when the organ is dead, there it doesn't depend on days, depends on re'iyot, depends on what they see. Meaning how many times does he see? It doesn't matter if it's days, because it could be even 3 in one day. Strike 1, strike 2, strike 3, you're out. Even if it's going to be on the same day, because the Torah was talib re'iyot, velo biyamim. What? What do you mean you're out? You're out. So now the Gemara comes and it says like this. Umiyam Rabbi Yochanan Hachi, does Rabbi Yochanan actually say this? Rabbi Yochanan says like this. To do with a zav, that he has to count now Shivat Nekim. And again, he saw zav on the 8th day before bringing the korban. So Ra'ab Achab Balayla, if he saw one in the nighttime, Ushtayim Bayom, and 2 times during the daytime of the 8th day, Mevi, he has to come and he has to bring korbanot, right? Letumazu Ashniya. Right? Why? Because it's going to be another 3 riyot, and therefore he has to bring another one, another korban. Shtayim Balayla ve'Achab Bayom. However, though, if he did 2 in the nighttime and then 1 during the daytime, right? He does not have to bring another korban. Why? Because since he was nitzmat tumat ziva on the 2nd time during the nighttime already, he wasn't obligated yet to bring the korbanot. To do with a zav, already twice, it's a korban. 3 times, those are 3 strikes are out, shivat nekim. So to do with the shtaim, it's the korban. So now it all depends. Imagine right now you had a zav, right? He saw seminal discharge when the membrane, when the organ is dead. He has to now do it, and he did it, it was 3 times. So he has to do Shiva Nekim, and he has to bring a korban, he has to do everything. Perfect, no problem. Okay, what happens? All of a sudden, it comes the night that the next morning he's going to the mikveh. The next morning he's going to bring his korbanot. That same night, he saw once, and then the next day he saw twice. So says the Gemara, in that case, when he saw once in the nighttime and twice during the day, he has to bring 2 sets of korbanot. 1 for the first group, and 1 for the second group. However, no, he has to wait now. He has to wait. Yeah, because he saw again 3 times. However, though, what about if he saw twice at nighttime and once during the day? He's patur. Why? When does he become chayav in korban? When he sees twice. When he saw twice, it was still in the nighttime, which was still shayach to the first group. So therefore, this is a proof that Rabbi Yochanan doesn't say that the nighttime is already chayav in a korban, because if not, you should have said that you should bring 2 different korbanot. He said no. The fact that it was a nighttime and it wasn't daytime, he only brings 1 korban. Why does he only bring 1 korban? Right? This is a proof against Rabbi Yochanan does not say this. Now, if you're going to tell me, right? Because Rabbi Yochanan holds that nighttime is not considered mechusar zman. So he says, even if it's going to be twice in the nighttime and once during the daytime, maybe you're going to bring it, right? So then why? Even if it's going to be twice during the nighttime and once during the day, you should also bring it. So answer the Gemara, you're right. When does Rabbi Yochanan say that a zav does not bring korbanot on 1 tum'ah, according to the Manama, Laila is mechusar zman, which means Rabbi Yochanan himself holds that Laila is not mechusar zman, and therefore even if he saw all 3 riyot during the nighttime, he still has to bring another korban. But Rabbi Yochanan was talking about according to the other Manama, meaning like this. One more time: if you hold Laila is not mechusar zman, so even if you're going to see all 3 riyot in the nighttime, remember, once you have the 3, you're chayav again, the shivat nekim and everything. But once you have 2, you're already chayav. But even if you would have seen all 3 in the same night, you're chayav 2 different type korbanot. But according to Rabbi Yochanan, he was going in the other shita that Laila is mechusar zman, and therefore you're not going to be chayav. Okay, ledivrei Omer pshita. He says, 1 second. According to that, if you're going to tell me that Laila is mechusar zman, pshita, obviously then there's no chidush. So he says, "Shtayim bayom v'achab balayla yisichre." No, we're talking about that if you saw it twice during the day and once during the nighttime. Why? Sal kadaita chamina. I would have thought to say, right? I would have thought to say, katavka de Rav Shisha bered Ravida, right? Which is basically you're asking on the shita of Rav Yosef, which is asking this. Kamash malan ke Rav Yosef. It's coming to teach you like Rav Yosef. Okay, fine. Avar regel. We're on the 2 dots. Okay, 2 dots. Imagine right now it passed the entire regel and they did not do the korban chagigah. He's not chayav b'chalitos. You don't have to do it. And on this it's written, Amal le bar hey, right? Says bar hey to Hillel, hay limanot leimaleot mibale. What does it say? V'chesron, something which you're lacking. Lo yuchal limanot, you cannot count. It's not count. Leimalot, you have to fulfill it. You have to fill it up. Right? Memalet, you have to be maleh, not right, not lima, not to count. His friends are counted together to do a mitzvah, and he was not counted with them to do a mitzvah. So therefore, in such a scenario, right, that's it, he lost out. You understood? He lost out. We also learned in the right hand. What does it mean? What does that mean? Somebody that came and he didn't say Kriyat Shema Shachrit or Arvit, or he didn't say Tfilat Shachrit or Tfilat Arvit, that is called Me'ubal, lo yechol litkon. He can't fix it. Chesron yuchal limanot is lezeh shenimnu chaverav b'mitzvah lo nimgam. Same thing we mentioned before. Somebody that the friends, they were all doing a mitzvah and he's not there. Right? That's why they always say Rishon lechol davar shemigdusha. There's a saying. What does that mean? Whenever there's a mitzvah, he's always there. Whenever there's they're always there. Why to do mitzvot? They're always there. They always come. They're always around. So also by the day it says to Hillel. What does it mean in the pasuk? V'shavtem uritem ben tzadik larasha ben oved elokim l'asher lo avodo. What is the difference between a tzadik and a rasha? Between somebody that serves a Kadosh Baruch Hu and somebody that doesn't serve it. He says, one second, Hainu tzadik ano oved Elohim, Hainu rasha ano avodo. One second. A tzadik is somebody that serves God, and the one that doesn't serve him is a rasha. So what's going on? Amalei, he says, no. Avado velo avado tarbayu tzadikim. No, we're talking about the one that's serving him and not serving him. They're both tzadikim gemuri. Right? Ve'eno domeh, but it's not compared. Mi sheshoneh pirko mea pe'amim lemi sheshoneh pirko mea ve'echad. There's a huge difference between somebody that learns something 100 times and somebody that learns something 101 times. If you learn it 101, it's a completely different limud. Completely different. Amale yasem. You didn't learn it one extra time. That's considered you didn't serve God. Imagine you came, you sit down, you're learning Daf Yomi, and you learned it 100 times. But the fact that you didn't learn it 101, that's it. What's going on? He says yes. How do you know? Look at the shuk of the chamarim. Why? 10 parse bezuze, 11 parse betrezuzah. Do you know that as long as you go as 10 zuz, 10 parsaot, it's 1 zuz? Shh. The second that you're going 11 parsaot, 2 zuz. Meaning that the second that you passed over, now it's a new rate. That's what happens many times. Water bills or many things like that. There's the first rate and the second rate. The second that you went over that, whether it's electricity and water, it's a new rate. The same thing. So he comes and he says, the second that you go to 101, it's a new rate. If you remember, we already explained this. Because if you remember, we explained the Yisod is that the numerical value of Shachach and Zachar, the difference between them is, how much is Shachach? 300. Kaf is 328. 328. 328. Shachach. Shin, Kaf, Chet. Shin, 328. How much is Zachar? Lizkor, Zachar.
27 or
227. The difference between 227 and 328, 101. Right? Right? So what does that mean? So he says over here that if a person learns 101 times the Gemara or whatever it is that he's learning, that he won't forget it. Because beforehand, the Koach HaShikha was much stronger than the Zikaron, than the Lizkor. Well, the second that a person adds the 101 to Lizkor, he's equal on par that he won't shocheach, he won't forget his learning. That's brought down in a kliyakar where? In Devarim. Yeah? So says the Gemara, he comes and he says like this, he says as follows, Amal Eliyahu, Navi comes and he says, what does it mean in the pasuk when it says, I went and I purified you, but I didn't purify you with the silver, right? Or I went and I showed you, but it's not done the kuloni. He says, you know that he wanted to give all the midot to Bnei Yisrael, but the best midah to give to Bnei Yisrael, so they're always hanging their eyes to their Father in heaven, is aniyut. Yeah, an incredible yesod, which means that once they're the aniyut, they always put their eyes to a Kadosh Baruch Hu. Amar Shmuel v'itema of Yosef, says Shmuel, something says of Yosef. Hainu dam ne'inche, that's what it says in the pasuk. Ya'a aniyut al Yehudae. It's good aniyut to the Jews. Ki barza sumaka l'susia chivara. Just like a retzua aduma, to a sus lavan. He's just like a white horse. It's going to be good if he's got like one strip, one line of red, right? So he says, so too, aniyut is going to be good for the Jews. 2 dots. Says the Gemara, holid in, lo holid lo. Only if he has a child, it's a problem. Meaning if you had a mamzer, it's a problem. If you didn't have the mamzer, there's no problem. But Tanya, we learned in the Braita. If a person steals, like geneva, so what he can return it, and that he fixes his avera. Gozel adam, again, he could also, somebody steals. Also, the difference between geneva and gazela is you do it publicly or privately, but he could fix it. But if somebody comes and he has relations with a married woman, he comes, he prohibits her to the husband, right? Kaddish, there's nothing what to do. A person has relations and fidelity with a married woman, there's nothing what to do. He can't permit the woman anymore. The woman becomes prohibited to her husband, yeah? And that's it, yeah? Shimon Bar Yochai says, "En omer bakiru gamal or bakiru ela bakiru atleh." Says Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai was remember, a person does not have a kapara when he goes with an eshetish, because once he goes with a married woman, that's it. There's nothing what to do. But rather, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai comes and he says that a person cannot come and bring a korban. He doesn't say check the camel to see if it's got a moon, or check the pig if it's got a moon. But rather, he says check the sheep. Why? Because the sheep is the only animal which is kosher to bring as a korban. Meaning, you're not going to come and say, check the camel. You're not going to bring the camel anyways, the korban. You're not going to say, go check the chazir. Because anyway, you're not going to bring it. So what are we talking about? The Tamid Chacham shepidesh min Torah. A Tamid Chacham that separates from the Torah. Which means that he's separating from life. And it says, what did your forefathers see in me? That they found iniquity, that they distance themselves, right, from me. So then says the Gemara, la kashya, it's not a question. Kan b'achoto apnuya, kan be'eshetish. Our Mishnah is talking about, right, achoto apnuya. What does that mean, achoto apnuya? Somebody that has relations with his own sister is chayav karet, and the child is a mamzer. Okay, the child is a mamzer. So he comes and he says, so therefore it says, since we're not talking about it, he didn't prohibit onto the husband because the sister was not married. So he didn't prohibit her to the husband. So you could fix it with teshuvah as long as he didn't have the mamzer, right? As long as he didn't have the mamzer. Can here we're talking about an eshetish. The eshetish has nothing what to do because even if there was no mamzer, she's still prohibited to the husband. If you only could answer another answer, have eshetish. It's both of them talking about an eshetish. But it's not a question. Can, right here we're talking about be'ones, yoda mudalef on the top, 10a on the top. Kan be'ones, kan beratzon. One of them is be'ones, one beratzon, which means like this: a woman only becomes prohibited to her husband if it was done by beratzon, willingly. If she was forced, if she was forced, right? And then no. If she was raped, then no. Which one? Yes, Dina was raped. Yoda mudalef, 10a at the top. It says, if you can answer, have honest. Both of them were talking about force majeure, which means that there was a violation. It's not a question. Kam beshet kohen, kam beshet yisrael. One's an eshet kohen, eshet yisrael. What's the difference? A wife of Israel that is violated, she could still go back to her husband. Because since she's an Israel, so she can go back to the husband. A wife of a kohen, the second that she's violated, she can never go back to her husband. She completely becomes prohibited to her husband. So therefore, that's a meuchad lo yechol litkom, because it means even if there's no child, she still becomes prohibited to the husband, even though she was violated, right? So says the Gemara, "Velayotze, velaba'in shalom." What does that mean? Amar Rav says, "Kevan sheyotze adam midvar halacha lidvar mikra, shuv shalom." The person, the second that a person goes from the Mishnah and the Gemara to mikra, he doesn't have shalom. What does it mean? He's not going to be matzliach in halacha, which means that you cannot forsake from the Torah. There's so many psukim that you need Torah Shebal Peh. You need the Gemara and the Mishnah to explain to you. You can't just come and open up a Chumash and say, this is it. You can't do that. You need the Mishnah and the Gemara. Okay? But Shmuel Aman and Shmuel says, Zeh poresh mi Talmud to Mishnah. This is somebody that's separating from Talmud to Mishnah. Rabbi Yochanan Amar, Rabbi Yochanan says, Afilu mishas l'shas. Even from one shas to another shas is going to be the exact same halacha, right? That means we're talking about, again, is the same halacha that a person has to understand the halachot properly, because if not, then he's not going to understand what's going on in halakha and he won't have success. We'll continue with the next Mishnah tomorrow.